Uh-oh. I broke it. I broke it. Hang on, did I fix it? Okay. That actually kind of worked. I accidentally had the preview window playing back. I had it unmuted. And so when I unmuted my own audio, it just started playing back into itself, but it kind of worked. It kind of worked. Yeah. Oh, we got to get that. We got to get the dancing karateka guy. Yeah, no, we need all of that. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the live stream. That is not a chicken. That's not a chicken. That's not a chicken. That is a like a parrot, like a cockatoo. I don't know.
Cockatoo. That's correct.
It is a cockatoo. How do you know?
Yes.
First of all, how do you know that?
Because my mom worked with birds for a long time. The cockatiel is the little one. Cockatoo is the big one with the big plumey head like that.
Okay, then second question: how did I know that? Just lucky, I guess. Just lucky, and lucky to be here with you all on a Monday evening to answer some questions. I'm going to be answering your questions about FPV. People will be... Oh, everybody in the chat is pointing out that it is a cockatoo. Where did... Who? Okay. First of all, how did you get this picture? I mean, I guess I've probably showed it on a live stream. Yeah. Okay. It's not the same. I posted it to my Facebook, apparently. Sounds like something I would do. That was a long time ago. We're going to answer your questions. I'm going to be taking your questions in the chat. I'm going to be taking your questions here in the Discord server. Once the Discord people get tired of posting funny GIFs. I mean, honestly, the funny GIFs are worth joining the Discord alone. Tell you what. That's Burning Man JB, not Capoeira JB. They were close in time to each other. If you want to make sure I read your question, leave a super chat. Hit the $. Boop. Super chat. We have no super chats right now. I will start reading the super chats at about 20-25 after, roughly. I usually will take a few minutes at the beginning of the stream just to answer questions from folks. Wrong. There we go. Answer questions from folks. And, oh, I see. I didn't even know I was wearing this shirt today. I saw the back of the shirt, which is a subtle Fly High FPV logo. Put the shirt on backwards and then was like, oh shit, my shirt's on backwards. Turned it around. Didn't even notice what shirt I was wearing. Fly High FPV, thank you for the shirt. This is amazing. Completely, like if Metallica finds out about this, you're done. But let's hope that they don't, because this shirt is incredible. Fly High FPV. Blunty, we got some questions queued up.
Yes, we do.
We do. Blunty's going to be queuing up the questions. Thank you, Blunty, for that. Whoa, JB is the drum and bass head. So I wouldn't call myself like a drum and bass head. Like if you asked me to name my favorite drum and bass artist, I couldn't tell you an artist. But like of the different genres of electronic music that I'm happy to hear when they come on, or if I like want to hear something, I usually would go to Spotify and just type like liquid drum and bass. I think I like liquid drum and bass a little better than whatever solid drum and bass. Yeah, I like drum and bass. That, however, as was pointed out to me, that song is really more dubsteppy than drum and bassy. So fair, I hear it. Vincent is typically more of a drum and bass artist. But that song, I'll grant you, is more dubsteppy. Nevertheless, I have liked dubstep. That is, let's take some real questions. McShaky FPV says, here's a question. I flew in the mountains yesterday and had some metallic rocks get into my flight controllers, motors, etc. at takeoff and had to disable immediately. The motors kept spinning even though I had disarmed. Okay, that's bad. That's hard to know what caused that, but anytime you get metallic rocks and stuff into your quad, stuff could be weird. There's a lot of protection against the ESC spinning the motor when it's not told to. So it's hard to imagine what could cause, like, that's a pretty suspicious sequence of events. It happened. It shouldn't have happened. And it's concerning that it happened. But I don't know what to tell you other than be suspicious of that quadcopter. What you shouldn't do is be like, oh, that was weird. Okay, well, and then, have it eat your face off. Okay? Understand that this quad has now, like you watch a horror movie. And they're like, I think I'll go into the woods by myself to drink alcohol, even though I'm underage. And you're like, well, they're clearly going to get murdered. Like, how do they not know? Well, this is your moment. This is your moment where your quadcopter has said to you, I'm going to eat your face someday, maybe. And so a lot of times there are warning signs. And then you post a picture of your bloodied face on Facebook and be like, don't be like me. And it's like, well, this is your chance. This is your moment where your quad has said, hey, I'm willing to spin the motors when I'm disarmed. Like, that should never happen. That should never happen, right? Like, never. So if it sort of kind of happened once, you need to take that seriously. Now, I'm not saying you should just be like, all right, well, I'll throw this quad in the trash and never fly it again. I'm just saying, treat it with some precaution. That's the best advice I have for you. Alan wants to know, what's the best way to mount a GoPro Bones on an 8S build? I'm not sure how the battery voltage relates to mounting the GoPro Bones. I currently have a Foxeer H7 with dual 10 volt. Oh, it's the Beck. I was told it was best to use an external Beck. Okay, well, I'll tell you. Oh, I don't need to go get one. I'll just show you. So what I have done in the past is buy one of these and basically cut the USB off and put a GoPro Bones power cable on, solder it on. Now that's fine. This works fine, except that's not going to work on 8S. Oh no. Yeah, you got a problem. I see the problem now. I see. Because that only takes a 6S balance plug. Okay, none of the typical solutions will work for you. You have to get like a voltage regulator. Jesus Christ. Can you not run it off the... Does the Bones take 5 volts only? Oh my God. It does, doesn't it? Between 5 and 27 volts. Okay, so Super Deluxe is correct that you should not just give it 6S, that the internal regulator will not like it. So what about running it off the 10 volt regulator on your flight controller? Why not do that? Would that work? Okay. Well, that's what I would do. Or I would run it off the 10 volt, maybe the 5 volt, probably the 10 volt. Just don't run it off of battery voltage. You could also, as Ghost Branch FPV suggests, get an external 5 volt regulator. You could buy one from Pololu if you want to spend, but way too much money. I mean, Alan says, I was told that 10 volt would interfere with my DJI O3. I don't see how that's possible, unless the 10 volt regulator just isn't like big enough. I mean, is the 10 volt regulator at least like 2 amps? I think you would be okay, but I haven't done the math, so maybe I'm wrong. If you need an external regulator, you just have to buy one. Okay, now I see how mounting the GoPro Bones on an 8S build relates to the voltage. Is $249 a good price for a Hero 10? I don't know. What's a new one go for? A new Hero... Well, GoPro is selling it for $250. So, I mean, that's that's what GoPro's asking. The question is, do you want a Hero 10? What's a Hero 12 going for? 500 probably, right? 400. That's interesting. I mean, I'll tell you what. I've seen some really impressive pictures. I've seen some really impressive pictures from the Hero 12. The HDR stuff is pretty impressive. 250 is, I mean, that's just what it's going for. So if you don't like that, if you like that price, go for it. GoPro is pretty good at sort of spacing out their pricing. So you've got Hero 10, 11, 12, you know, and they're going to price them competitively with each other. Just decide which one you want. I always buy the cheapest one. Hacksaw Dave says, any idea why my Rotor Riot order isn't showing up in their system? This is not... No, I have no idea. Contact Rotor Riot customer support. What am I... No, I have no idea. We're going to go... No. No. You have to contact customer support about that. I don't have any insight into that. I don't have any... Yeah. So it's not sure how I would answer that one. Gadget RC says, have you changed your stance on 7-inch and larger drones? Remind me what my stance was. I don't always remember what people think my stance was. Did I not like 7-inch? I like 5-inch. I still like to fly 5-inch more than 7-inch, if that's what you mean. What smoke stopper do you like? I like the V-Fly Short Saver V2. That's the one I like. V-Fly Short Saver V2. Yep. You don't have to buy it from Amazon. That was just the first link that came up. I like that it's got a power switch. I like that it has both XT30 and XT60 plugs, so you can actually use it as a converter if you want. Just a really, really useful piece of kit, and I'm a big fan of it.
So the second half of that question is, I have an old bulb one I made, but I wonder if the new electronics are more useful. How do you feel about that?
Well, I like the fact... So the bulb one doesn't really have controllable current threshold. And the other thing is it limits the current, but it doesn't cut off the current. So there are cases where that will be a good thing. On the bulb ones, if you like arm the quad, the voltage will drop, but it won't like cut out. And so you could still kind of maybe arm and idle. Whereas on the short saver style, where they have an electric fuse, basically as soon as you cross the threshold, they just cut off and you have to power cycle. So there are times when the bulb ones are desirable, but I haven't used a bulb one in a long time. I just trust the eFuse ones, and I find their positives to outweigh their negatives. How do you make it not trip when the motors start beeping? Right, exactly. So it has adjustable current threshold. You could change it from 1 amp to 2 amp, and that will usually let the motors beep. But if your motor beeps are tripping it, even on 2 amps, now you're like, well, I wish I had a light bulb. Joseph Gardner says, has anyone successfully bought a quad off of Amazon? I usually shop Pyrodrone, but I have a gift card for Amazon, so it's my only option. Yeah, I mean, just pay attention to who you're buying from. If you buy from a legitimate store instead of a third-party seller, you'll usually have fine results. If you buy from an actual Amazon like warehouse, Amazon fulfilled by Amazon will have a lot of protection. Whereas if you're buying from a third-party seller, it's a little harder to make a return. But in general, a lot of times FPV stuff is more expensive on Amazon. Is the other thing. So you should you should comparison shop it against other stores and make sure you're getting a good deal. Claymore FPV, very interesting. Do you think a 4K action camera would be a good addition to the 7-inch Street League spec to help drive content and grow drone racing in general? Claymore, I have made the argument in the past. It's funny that you say that. A long, long time ago, I argued that one of the ways to grow 5-inch drone racing was to require pilots to carry a GoPro. So that, and if pilots say, well, we can't afford a GoPro, then to require them to carry a dummy weight of equivalent weight to a GoPro, so there's no competitive disadvantage. But hopefully it would encourage there to be more high-quality footage of racing. And if everyone was required to do it, then it wouldn't disadvantage people. Of course, no one did that. Racers don't want to do that. And I'm not sure I was right, you know. The question is bad video quality what is stopping people from wanting to get into Street League? And I don't know if that's the thing that's stopping them from wanting to get into Street League. I think anytime you require pilots to add an expensive piece of kit to their aircraft, there's going to be pushback. Then again, the Street League rigs already require pilots to put a bunch of expensive stuff. The quads themselves it's a spec league. So I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And people are going to break them a lot. So I don't think that lack of high definition footage is what's holding Street League back, would be my thought. Fire Falcon says, beginner here, how do I know when to transition from the sim to flying for real? Fire Falcon, in my opinion, when you can take off, fly around, go and then mostly sort of land the quad where you intend to land it without getting out of control, that's the minimum standard for when you can go to the real quad. The thing that happens is that beginners get out of control and don't know how to get back in control, and then they crash. And that's what you don't want to be doing with a real quad. Okay? So you don't have to be able to do fancy tricks or run a race course. But what you have to be able to do is judge when you are at the edge of your capability envelope and stay within that, to be able to recover from the quad kind of getting a little destabilized, to go where you need to go, and so on. Have you ever flown with two cameras so you can see in stereo? No, Doug Hoffer. If you look hard enough, there have been stereo FPV systems in existence. In my experience, nobody used them, and they didn't sell, and there were very few of them, and now I'm not even sure you can still get them. They were analog only. I've never known of a digital stereo FPV system. And you gave up, well, that's not true. The SkyZone one used dual transmitters. So the SkyZone system, if my memory's correct, had dual video transmitters, which transmitted on two channels, one for the left and one for the right eye, which was the best way to do it, but used twice as much bandwidth. The other ones would do either a vertical split or every other scan line split left and right. And of course, the goggles had to support splitting the signal apart like that. But you had half resolution to each eye. The cameras typically were a single piece, and the spacing between the cameras was fixed. And I don't know why it didn't take off, but, it never took off. And I've never done it, to answer your question directly. Eric Duke says, I smacked my Hummingbird so hard it set the camera back to backup cam status. Any way to fix? I've seen this before, Eric. I don't know how to fix it. I think it's a Newbie Drone Hummingbird. I think you have to ask Newbie Drone how to fix it and see what they're going to do about it. That's funny, but sad. You're flying FPV and you see the backup lines on the camera. Okay. We're going to start doing the super chats now. Let's see how many super chats we have queued up. Ooh, quite a few. Thank you guys for your generosity. We're going to run through the super chats until we run out. So if you want to get your question answered promptly, now is the best time to do it with a super chat. Eric Duke, that's a $5 super chat. I think I just answered your question, right? Is that right, Blunty? That was his question?
Correct. He also put a video in Discord, but you covered it.
Yeah. Okay. Michael Linsenmeyer, thank you for a $10 super chat. I have the GepRC cinewhoop 3.5 V2 frame. Is there a way to swap out the mount on the motor with a 12x12, or do you know of an adapter? I know I could just buy the right motors, but I don't wanna. I don't think this is a good direction to go, Michael. With the power of 3D printing, you could certainly make an adapter. It seems like you could. It's going to be clunky. The cinewhoop, the Cinelog 3.5 has inverted motors, so you're going to push the motors closer to the ground with this adapter plate. I just think that probably you should just buy the right motors. So yes, you can. No, I don't know of an adapter. And no, I don't think you should do this. I don't think you're going to get a good result. But yes, it probably exists. I don't know if you can like literally swap out the mount. I'm sure GepRC hasn't made a different motor mount. They assume that you're going to use. The real question is, like, what 12x12 motors are you trying to use? Because usually the mounting size of the motors of the frame is suited for the size of motor that makes the most sense for that frame. Thank you, FP Wee, for $4.99. Thanks for all the info. More of a PSA. I cleaned my DJI FPV. I'm not judging you for cleaning it. I'm judging you for owning it. No, I'm joking. I cleaned my DJI FPV with electrical cleaner and it basically imploded. DJI replaced. Fair enough. Thanks, DJI. It's a 16 by 16. Michael, you're going to run a 3.5 inch prop on a 2207 motor? Why, Michael? Why? What? You don't... I don't want to presume...
I don't want to.
What?
The original question says, I know I can buy the right motors, but I don't want to.
Yeah, you're gonna... So that's gonna just be... It's way too much motor for that prop. You're gonna have a ton of additional weight. The KV is not gonna be right. You're gonna have a ton of additional weight for no benefit. And you're gonna have to... Bannister Post says I run 5-blade 4-inch props on 2207. Yup, Bannister Post. In fact, Bannister Post... Oh, it's not here. It's in the closet. I don't feel like getting up to get it. I've got the Catalyst Machine Works Whoopmaster. It runs 2207 motors on 5-blade, or maybe even... Yeah, I think it's 5-blade whoop props. Absolutely. But he's on 3.5-inch props, and there's a difference. And that Cinelog isn't, the frame isn't made to carry that much weight. No, it's just silly. My official advice is don't do it. Don't do it. Save those motors for a different build and get the right motors. Night Owl, it's a 6-blade? Okay. Yeah, a 6-blade 4-inch is suited for a 2207. One IFPV once built a 5-inch quad with 2806.5 motors. Also a terrible idea. Okay. DJI Raw FPV. Thanks for a $20 super chat. That's a big super chat. I really appreciate it. I have a Babyhawk O3. Let's hope I can answer your question. I have a Babyhawk O3 with ExpressLRS. It would not connect to the gray controller. It would connect to the gray controller, but shows no response when I hook it up to Betaflight. It will show connection to the drone, but not the controller. What should I do? My guess is that you've got it bound to the O3, but the flight controller is not configured to take signal from the air unit. So you're going to need to set up the flight controller to receive the signal from the air unit. What flight controller is on that one? For a $20 super chat, I'll spend a few minutes trying to actually research your problem. That's a very generous super chat. What flight controller is on the Babyhawk O3? A crisp 4K video feed. I hate adjectives. That's it. I just hate them. No, I hate adjectives like this that are used to describe things that don't make sense. A crisp 4K video feed. There's no need to say that it's crisp. It's 4K. That is an adequate statement to communicate I know what 4K resolution looks like. Are you with me on this one, Blunty? Feels like you would be.
I think no. I think I'm
No?
not with you on this.
I'm betrayed. Why not?
I mean, I just can be helpful. I don't know. What if somebody doesn't know what 4K means? What if it's blurry 4K? They want to let you know it's crisp 4K.
I was talking to somebody. He bought a motorcycle. He was telling me about the motorcycle he bought, and he linked me to the product page for the motorcycle. And the product page said it had a buttery smooth torque curve. And I was like, shut up. Shut up. A torque curve is what's buttery about your torque curve? I don't like it. I didn't like it. Buttery torque curve. No. I don't approve.
Here's what I'll say. If they're using it, it probably works, right? Or maybe some marketing team is just having fun. Right?
It's marketing people. It probably works. It makes people buy product. Sure. I still hate it.
I mean, when you're the 18th company selling a 2207, you got to do something.
Well, that's one way to look at it. It's true. But you're getting closer to the problem, which is that 18 people are trying to sell motors and they need to differentiate, and they can't differentiate on anything actual quantitative. They have to differentiate on marketing bullshit. This is what's allowed to be crispy. Chicken. You know what? Chicken is crispy. Literally crispy. 4K video is not crispy. It's not crisp. I'm okay with soda being crisp. I will let that slide. I feel like that's accurate. Okay. I'm looking for I'm looking for this flight controller. What freaking flight controller is on the Babyhawk? No, not gonna tell me. Oh, you're killing me. What flight controller is on the Babyhawk? Can anyone help me? Drones. No. Accessories? No. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hang on. So this is the Babyhawk O3 series. Parts? No parts for it, huh? No parts. Just the Babyhawk. Oh, perfect. I got it. I found it. Hallelujah. Okay, now. Here is the, okay. TX2 RX2 ground 5-volt SBus. Damn it. What UART is that? Damn it. Documentation in this hobby is atrocious, Blunty. I'm going to guess it's UART 1. How would I know? There's no manual. There's no manual for the board. All right. What you got to do is you got to figure out what UART number. So you got to figure out what UART number this SBus input is. That's the first thing you got to do. And then in the ports tab, whatever UART number that is, you got to enable serial RX. And then in the receiver tab, you got to select serial and SBus. Okay? And then the last thing, you can't do CLI and virtual, can you? Can you? No, you can't. You're going to type, oh, it's not going to work at all. Set SBus baud fast equals on, or set SBus baud fast equals off, depending on whether your goggles are set to fast or not. The best scenario would be to set the goggles to fast and the CLI to fast. TX2 and RX2 are not the SBus pad. TX2 and RX2 are for the MSP connection. The SBus pad is going to be a different UART than TX2 and RX2.
Oh, really? I would assume it's that one.
No.
Because the way they have that set up.
Oh, hang
two
on.
on the
That's
left
not the...
and the
Wait,
one on
wait,
the
wait.
right.
That's not the DJI connector. Okay, okay. I see. I thought that was the DJI connector, but no, it would have, well, what's powering the O3?
There's only 2 UARTs to try, luckily, I think, on this one. Maybe 3. So at
Okay,
least you
so it's
can
going to be
guess.
UART 2.
Yeah.
They don't have a... I thought this was a DJI plug, in which case the TX2 and RX2 would be for the MSP connection, and SBus would be. But no, I see it's not a DJI plug. Well done. So it's probably UART 2. Thank you. I know that TX2 RX2 is UART 2. I'm trying to figure out what SBus is. Oh, someone found the manual. Oh, exciting. Oh, how about that? But is the information we need in the manual? Okay. Yeah. 2 UARTs. Okay, well, that's good. So it's got to be UART 2. No, stop. Stop. So then where's MSP? Does that make MSP be UART 1 for the O3? Show me the ports tab. No. Nope. All right. I'm going to guess it's UART 2. All right. Good luck. I hope this has been helpful. Peyton Nelson, thanks for a $5 super chat. My last super chat last week popped up late. Oops. Is the 2107.5 better than 2207? Because the industry looks like it's moving to tall and skinny motors. Peyton Nelson, I would debate you that 2107.5 is tall and skinny. 2107.5 is close to the optimal, so it's pretty subtle. 2207, 2107.5. It's pretty subtle difference, and most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference except on a bench. So I reserve my judgment until somebody like Chris Rosser puts it on a thrust stand. That's the only way to really know what's happening in the motor. But Chris Rosser tested the GEP-RC motor. The GEP-RC Mark V moved to... What motor is it? Um, 2107.5, yeah. And Chris Rosser tested that motor, and it did really, really well. So 2107.5 isn't that tall and skinny. It's pretty close to the optimal ratio, the 3:5:6 ratio or something that Chris Rosser suggested would have the best balance of responsiveness and heat dissipation. Okay. Dark and Stormy Garage, thanks for a $5 super chat. Let me see if I can find your message. Says, hey, JB, I built a 3.5-inch 4S, and I'm having trouble. I used Brother Hobby 4150 kV 1507s in a SpeedyB stack, having desync issues and burnt out the ESC. Am I exceeding the bandwidth of the 8-bit ESC with this combo? No. No. That last sentence doesn't even really sort of parse to me. An 8-bit ESC can 1000% handle 4150 kV on 4S. I'm not even sure like the bit count of the ESC necessarily relates to the max RPM, but you're nowhere near it, so I wouldn't worry about that. My guess is you just got unlucky and had a bad ESC. So what I would do is I would go back to SpeedyB, tell them what happened, and see if you can get them to send you another ESC. I have heard more than one story of them going, oh yeah, my bad, sorry about the inconvenience, and sending out free replacement ESCs. I obviously can't promise you that they'll do that, but it's worth a try. You don't have to just take the loss. Keenan Coke asks, thank you for a $10 super chat, Keenan. I have unsuccessfully been trying to bind my GepRC Cinebot HD O3 FPV drone with ExpressLRS to my Taranis QX7 with a Radiomaster 2.4 GHz external module. Help. Keenan, this is the kind of question that's going to be difficult to troubleshoot on a live stream because it's going to require a lot of back and forth questioning. And because of the live stream delay, that's really tedious. So I'll do my best to give you some advice. And you're welcome to email me, joshuabardwell@gmail.com. Or, no, sorry, don't use that email. jb@joshuabardwell.com is one I'd prefer you to use if you want to try to troubleshoot it personally. The first thing I would do is I would run the ExpressLRS Lua script and see if it loads. On the QX7 ACCST, there was an issue with the inverter where it couldn't handle high-speed communication to the module. If the Lua script doesn't load or is slow to load, you could be running into that issue. If that happens, one fix is to flash EdgeTX to your radio and then enable 1-bit mode. You're going to need to Google those things. I have a tutorial for how to flash EdgeTX, and there's a web page on the EdgeTX wiki for how to enable 1-bit mode. That may get you around that problem. That's my guess as to why it's not working. My guess is that the Lua script doesn't load and you have a problem with the inverter. I'm going to check now in the chat and see if I have babbled on long enough for you to have added any information to this troubleshoot. You can also lower the ExpressLRS packet rate, which will lower the baud rate that's used to talk to the module, which may fix the problem. Okay, you're welcome to email me if you want to touch on it any further. Continuing to run through the super chats. Where to get an STL for GoPro 9 or 10 for the JB build? Well, the standard Thingiverse album with parts for the QAVS JB is here. I'll put that in the chat. The Thingiverse number is 4874074. And you're looking for a GoPro 8, GoPro 9, no GoPro 10, and 567. So, does that help? Is that what you're looking for? Maybe. Mikhail Chernetsov. Thank you for a $10 super chat. After a crash, my 5-inch 6S punches weaker. All motors and battery are warmer at the end. Don't see any bell problems. What's the right way to troubleshoot? If the whole thing is weaker, my guess is you've got at least one bad ESC. One bad ESC or motor will make the whole quad weaker because the quad cannot be more powerful than the weakest motor. So that's just a guess. You can tell you've got a bad ESC or motor if you jam the throttle and the quad kind of dips an arm. And that's a sign that you probably should replace the ESC. It could be the motor, but a lot of times it's the ESC, in my opinion. Trades, thanks for a $10 super chat. Have you made a video on tuning 6S high KV motors on BLA32? I'm having a heck of a time trying to tune T-Motor F80 2500 kV on the T-Motor F7 HD Pro 55 amps. I blew 2 packs. Well, I'm guessing you're running 6S on 2500 kV. You're trying to really go hard. You definitely should go into BL Heli and set DMAG compensation to high. That's the first thing you should do. And you should increase the timing. Those are 2 things you can do. As far as PIDs go, you're going to need to lower the filter sliders to the left to get extra filtering. Oh, but sorry, I missed the second half of your question. That's what you get for putting 2 questions in one super chat. To see you trying to sneak through there. Boxer Max AGO1 or TX16S JB plus AGO1. Price is not an issue. The Boxer Max has a 1 watt ExpressLRS module. The TX16S only has a 250 milliwatt module. That might make some people decide on the Boxer. If you have, I don't know if a 7.8-inch tip to palm length is big or not. If you have medium-sized hands or smaller-sized hands, the Boxer is definitely preferable. I like the ergonomics in the Boxer. The best thing you got to do is to get your hands on them and try them for yourself. The Boxer is my current daily driver, though. So that's what I have to say about that. Is the new GoPro 12 a reasonable purchase for FPV footage if upgrading from a GoPro 9 or 11? Is enough, plus I can get it at a reduced price. Don't care about GPS. Quality is what matters. Thank you, Vishal Singh, for a $20 super chat. Let's see if I can find an example of the HDR. Okay, here is Mick Bergsma. No music, no music. So this is Mick Bergsma. If you don't know them, they are a GoPro content creator. And I don't know this video, but I expect Mick will have good stuff for us. The HDR setting on the Hero 12 is pretty damn impressive. I hope Mick is okay with me showing their video and doesn't copy strike me. I'll subscribe to Mick. That'll do it. All right, here's standard. Okay, sure. Now we switch to HDR. Okay, so we're getting more detail in the clouds and less blowout. I don't even think this is the best picture to show off HDR. Oh, yes. This is starting to get there. The HDR does a better job of pulling the highlights out. Yeah, like right there. I've seen some FPV footage where we were underneath the trees and could see the bright sunshine out in the outside part, not underneath the trees. Oh yeah, like this. Notice that when the 11 standard, this bright part, and see, FPV pilots are in this situation a lot, right? Where we are in a dark place going out into a bright place. And you can see that on the 12, we get a lot more detail, whereas on the 11, we don't. To me, the 12 is one of the more exciting things that's happened. Like, if you go from the 9 to the 10, the 11 had the 8:7 aspect ratio, which is kind of exciting. There haven't been a lot of, like, big changes. There you go. Now it's more similar. But did you see, like, very briefly, there was a big difference? Right here, there's a huge difference. The 12 is doing a much better job here, whereas the 11 is super overexposed. So, especially when combined with the 10-bit, the 12, there are certain lighting conditions where the 12 is going to make a big difference. And I think FPV is exposed to those lighting conditions, no pun intended, more often than typical. So I think the 12 is going to be pretty exciting for FPV. But in a lot of cases, it's going to be subtle. The question is the Hero 12 actually recording HDR video or just applying an HDR color grade in camera and saving it as an SDR video? Ghost Branch, I assume it's applying the HDR tone mapping in camera and saving SDR video. I assume it is not outputting an HDR video. That would just F up everybody's workflow. So, yeah. No. I mean, even professionals have problems dealing with HDR, actual HDR video sometimes. So, yeah, so I'm excited about the 12. I am. Thank you, Keenan Coke, for another $2 super chat. Continuing our super chat bonanza, we're going to keep working through these super chats till we get to the end. Then we'll take some more regular chats. If you guys want to get your super chats in, this is the time to do it. I want to take this question from Steve-O, even though it's not a super chat, because it's not from Steve-O, it's from Alan. Alan asks in the Discord, what's your go-to 3D printer for TPU FPV parts? Was thinking about the Bambu Labs P1S, but not sure if it's overkill. And then Newt McFly posts this print. Newt McFly did this print with a $20 Ender. He got it, and somebody, obviously the Ender is more than $20. He got it as a bargain from somebody for $20. There is no question that an Ender 3, one of the cheapest, most widespread 3D printers, everybody's first 3D printer, there's no question that an Ender 3 can print good results with TPU or just about any filament with a little bit of work. And the nice thing is that it's such a common and popular printer that there are plenty of people out there who've developed profiles for it that can get people good results. So let's just stipulate that a cheap Ender 3 can get the job done. But it's like asking, I need to drive a car to work. What car should I get? Well, there's no question that an inexpensive, bare bones car can get the job done. And there's no question that many people choose to buy a more expensive car with more sort of quality of life options in order to get a better experience out of their morning commute. The Bambu P1P or P1S or whichever one you're thinking of is not overkill. It's not overkill any more than saying, well, I'm going to buy like a luxury car or I'm going to buy a sports car, right? You're choosing to buy something that has more features and more quality of life improvements, and you're choosing to pay extra money for that. So I think it's just a question of where you are on the price to convenience curve. I am super thrilled with my Bambu X1C. I have had almost nothing but great experiences with it. The times when I have had less than great experiences, I have usually solved them pretty quickly, and it's usually been user error and not the printer's fault. I just recently printed a whole bunch of PETG filament because don't worry about that, it doesn't matter. And I was a little concerned because it was some Amazon Basics PETG that I had bought, and it had been sitting around for a while. It wasn't Bambu filament. I was a little bit nervous that the Bambu generic PETG profile wouldn't work well with it, and it totally did. It just worked perfectly and printed great. Bambu printers are going to give you in my opinion, and not just my opinion, but I'd spend a lot of time, because I don't want to just shill for a product, right? Despite what some people say. I want to know that just because I had a good experience with a product, if I say this product delivers a good experience, that it's not just I got lucky and other people are having a bad experience. And if you go to the r/Bambu subreddit and you read up on it, the number of people who are just thrilled with the printer and say it's the best thing that ever happened to them is enormous. It's not just me who got one from Bambu because they wanted me to do a review of it, and I'm just I'm just tainted by that coloring my opinion. They're fantastic. The question is, can you afford one? You can buy an Ender for $200, and you can put a little bit of work into tuning it, a little bit of work into working out your profiles. You're paying with your time instead of paying with your cash. But if you're a person who has enough cash for a Bamboo printer, it's going to deliver incredible results, and I couldn't be happier with mine. If you can't afford it, then 1,000% just buy an Ender, download a TPU profile, and just start figuring it out. I have been through that process. Now that I have a Bamboo printer, I probably will never do that again because the Bamboo printer is so gosh dang convenient and easy to use, and now I'm spoiled. And that, by the way, that is why I didn't buy a Prusa for the longest time, because I wanted to force myself to go through the process of learning to tune a printer, learning to set up a printer, and having done that, now I can say, you kids get off my lawn, and I can never do it again. Continuing the Super Chats. Teddy Tuned, thank you for a $5 Super Chat. Some of my buddies refuse to update firmware at all costs. Do you tend to update frequency, or once it flies, you leave it be? No, Teddy, once it flies, I leave it be until there is a killer feature that I desperately want. So I recently updated my 533 switchbacks to HD0. And I love the high definition OSD feature in HD0. That's a killer feature to me, and it was worth updating them from 4.3 to 4.4. Once I have a quad that flies good, I would rather have a good flying quad that I don't have to screw with. And I don't care what version of Betaflight it's on. When I build a new quad, I might build it on the latest and greatest, but if I have a good flying quad, that's too valuable, and I don't want to screw it up. Heart of America FPV, thank you for a $10 Super Chat. Big news, the DRL Discord laid off most of their staff. Yeah, we got this post here. Thank you, It's Blenty, for sharing it in the Discord server. This is from TK. From the first ever drone racing podcast to DRL, I've been blessed with meeting you all, laughing and flying with you, watching everyone grow in their skills. Couldn't be more thankful. DRL's going in different directions and laid off a bunch of us. Don't have details, don't have answers. All I know is I no longer work for DRL. Excuse me. Well, anytime a company starts laying off employees, it's not a great sign. But we really don't know more than that. I will say that the single best thing I did for my Bamboo X1C was buy the textured bed. The textured PEI sheet. The textured, I had some adhesion problems with the standard cool sheet that they ship with, and the textured PEI sheet has been just flawless for me. So I think that's an upgrade that's well worth getting. Just flip it. It comes with 2 sheets, and they have the filaments they're good for on each one, and basically no bed prep, just hit print and go. Period. That's what it's, and that's what I expect from a 3D printer. The idea that on the cool sheet you're supposed to put frickin' glue stick on it and all that nonsense, it's like, what frickin' decade are we in? So, thank you Xten1 for 10 Swiss francs. On my latest build, the Baro icon didn't show up when I plug in the quad, but when I turn the Baro setting off, hit save and reboot, then turn it back on, it shows up. But the next time I connect, it's not showing up. Yeah, that, I don't, that's not gonna, I don't know. Does your flight controller have a barometer or doesn't it? I guess is my first question. And then, like, have you flashed the wrong target? If you're on Betaflight 4.4, do you have the barometer option enabled, or do you need a custom define? Go back to Betaflight 4.3 and see if it works. Betaflight 4.4 has some issues with some boards with barometer and so forth. Are you on Betaflight 4.4 Xten1? Go back to 4.3 if you're on 4.4 and see if it works normally. Night Owl, the barometer doesn't use a UART. It uses I2C. Extend1, thank you so much for the donation. Michael Linsenmeyer, another $5 super chat. Now that you convinced me not to install rocket motors on my 3.5-inch whoop, what do you think about the ALS 2105-3600? Yes, that's a way better idea. Like, I don't know the HDLRC ALS motor specifically, although I think I've heard people who like them, but I can't vouch for them. But a 2105 is a fantastic motor for a 3.5-inch sort of heavier lift whoop. That's a great choice. Definitely do that. Bayachi, thank you for 20 Brazilian reais. I want to get a long-range FPV drone, but not a 7-inch. What's your thoughts on the Recon 5 LR or the Flywheel Explorer 4 LR? Bayachi, doesn't the Recon 5 have weird prop mounting? I said something good about the Recon. Maybe it was the 6-inch. Hang on. I said something good about Recon. Yeah. And people were like, no, it's terrible. It must be the 6-inch. Because the 5 appears to have standard T-mount motors. I really liked the Recon 4. The motors are a little fragile, but if for a long-range quad, you shouldn't be bashing it too much, so it should be okay. I think this, I mean, I haven't flown this one, but based on my experience with the Recon 4, I would feel pretty good about the Recon 5. That's what I would say. Or a Flywheel Explorer 4. Flywheel Explorer 4, also all right. I think I would lean toward the 5 because I think you're going to get longer flight time on the 5. I guess it depends on the battery you choose. The 4 can have pretty long flight time. The Flywheel Explorer 4 is a known quantity. The Recon 5, I think, is a little less well established, at least in my mind. Mikhail Chernetsov, thank you for a $5 super chat. Follow up on my question about a quad that has weak power after a crash. The quad drifts in one direction on centered sticks. That points to a flight controller issue. I mean, assuming the sticks definitely are calibrated correctly and centered, now your gyro is messed up. Are you in auto level mode? Because that could just mean your accelerometer needs to be calibrated. But if you're in acro mode and it's drifting one direction, even though the sticks are centered, that's a gyro problem. That's a little weird. I would say that's a replace the flight controller situation. How to find which motor to replace. One way you could do it is, if you're using bidirectional D-shot, go to the motors tab, spin the motors with props off, and see if one motor is making significantly lower RPMs than the others. Question from DJI Raw FPV. Thanks for a $5 super chat. Would you ever come to a drone meetup in Long Island? Long Island. So, like, my official story about traveling is that I never want to do it, and I usually have a good time once I'm there. So the trick is figuring out how to convince me to say yes to the trip. I don't know what to tell you. Right now, I actually have a lot of work-related travel on my schedule because someone I know figured out how to get me to say yes to travel and then started using that power for evil and convincing me to go do a bunch of consulting gigs with him. And I'm enjoying them, but I'm traveling more than I have in the last 5 years. And just today, he called me up and he's like, hey, you know that trip you told me you weren't going on? Because you're going on this other trip with me, and we're going to get back from that, the first trip, and then like 4 days later, he's going to the second trip. And he was like, yeah, one of the people who was going on the second trip with me fell through. and I've already committed to it. And then he just waited. He waited for me to say, oh man, I won't leave you hanging. I'll do it. And I was like, yeah, that really sucks. Could you call so-and-so? Could you call so-and-so? So, there you go. What's happening in the chat? Moderators, what's happening in the chat with 8-bit FPV? Are we still family friendly? Is everything still good?
Is this normally a family friendly stream?
It's somewhat family friendly.
Don't ask Tom, right?
Kids, kids watch this stream, Blunty. Don't say the F word. The trips are consulting and business. That's the extent of it. So DJI Raw, it's unlikely that I'll come to a drone meet. Not that only because of who I am as a person and how I respond to travel and travel invitations. Somebody emailed me once and they were like, I want you to come. I have a drone racing club. What island was it? It wasn't Fiji. It was one of those Polynesian Pacific islands, nations of some kind. I don't remember. And he was like, yeah, I have a drone racing club here and we'd like to sponsor you to come out here. And I was like, that sounds like a 22-hour flight to the middle of the And my wife was like, are you kidding me? What's wrong with you? Someone offers you an all expenses paid trip to frickin' Fiji or some Polynesian island. I don't remember which one it was. I apologize, Polynesian Islanders. I'm insulting your culture by not remembering. Fiji is not even a Polynesian island. My God, what's wrong with him? I don't know, maybe it is. She was like, somebody offers you a trip to frickin' islands and you just like, you're just annoyed and you just want to stay home. And I'm like, that's how it is. At least Long Island would be a short flight. My mom's family is from Brooklyn. I don't know if you guys know that. My mom's family is from New York. So. Lotus, thanks for a $10 super chat. I built my first quad with your vid's help. Thanks for your passion and looking forward to more. Thank you, Lotus. That means a lot. That's the thing in the world I'm most proud of is the people who are flying today because of my tutorials and my help. It means a lot. Thank you. Okay, we're caught up on super chats. Fantastic. And Blunty has like 25 chats, 25 questions queued up. But I've got to do a bit here. Blunty, this is for the Livestream Clips channel. Let me clear that. So, for those who don't know, we have a Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips channel. And Blunty, it's Blunty, who is the voice on the line and also my co-host for the news. Blunty, you cut up the clips you cut up the live stream into clips and post them. What percentage of each live stream would you say becomes a live stream clip, Blunty?
Well, people might refer to the earlier comment where you talked about a lot of travel. So at this point, I'm going to guess 80 to 90%.
You're stretching. You could have been doing that all the time.
Yes.
Now you know.
If we go back in time, I think it's more like 40%, probably.
Because when I'm traveling, I don't do live streams, and you have to really stretch to make the content.
Yes.
But you cut them up, and you give them its titles. It's really great because people can get highlights from the streams. I love live stream clips. There's a whole bunch. There's Twitch streamers, and they'll stream for 10 hours. So I'm like, I'm not watching that shit. But then I'll just go watch their live stream clips and find the best parts. It's great. And so I got a little segment I want to do here that is for the live stream, but also for the live stream clips channel. And it relates to the flight test Easy ID module, the remote ID module that I reviewed. And there's a thing that people are saying in the comments. They take a look at it and they say, $100? Why, that's a GPS receiver and a Bluetooth system on chip. Why, I could build one of those for $30. And they don't realize, like, it's like the $1,000 toilet seat. The government bought the military $1,000 or the $800 screwdriver. People don't realize that when government regulation is involved, things get more expensive. And when we're talking about like military contracting, things get more expensive in part just because the military has a huge budget and there's all these ways that contractors inflate their budget. That's not what I'm saying is going on. What I'm saying is going on is that when you have a requirement, a legal, technical, regulatory requirement that you have to meet, it costs money to meet that standard and to affirm that you meet that standard, right? So if you have a bolt that is made to go on an F-22, there may be no actual difference between that bolt and a different bolt that you get down at the hardware store, except that the entire supply chain of everything that went into making the bolt that goes into the F-22 is documented. And it's been tested and so forth. And there's all this additional bullshit around making sure that it meets the standard. And that costs money. So, for example, there are requirements about the Bluetooth transmission, the GPS device. There's a tamper-resistant requirement. So, like, one of the things people asked is, there's open source code on GitHub right now that will broadcast remote ID. Why did they have to develop their own code? Why do they have to write code from scratch? And the answer is that there's this tamper-resistant requirement, and just taking open source code and slapping it on there might not have met that. They had to develop their own closed source compiled code instead. There's a requirement that the device maximize the possible range of the signal while still using off-the-shelf components. So some work had to be put into choosing a Bluetooth device that would fit that vague requirement. There's a lot of work that goes into making sure that this device is going to meet the requirements. The remote ID standard, the ASTM standard that defines how a remote ID module must work, doesn't just say, yeah, whatever, just broadcast some shit, you'll be fine. It has all these requirements, and work has to go into meeting those requirements, and that costs money. So, when you look at remote ID modules, and it's not just the flight test module, when you look at remote ID modules and they're all like $100, $80, maybe $60, it's not because the manufacturers are ripping you off. It's because just slapping a GPS and an ESP32 onto a board and broadcasting an open source remote ID code isn't going to actually meet the regulatory requirements. So, okay. Just wanted to get that out there. Just is bugging the shit out of me. I really, and you don't have to agree with me on this, but I really firmly believe that the guys at Flight Test and the FPV Freedom Coalition who worked with them on it did the absolute best they could to make this module as inexpensive as they possibly could. And to see people in the YouTube comments just being like, whatever, I could build one for $30. It's like, no, you couldn't. You could build a piece of electronics that broadcasts a remote ID signal. You could not design a device that actually would be accepted by the FAA as fitting all their requirements for that price.
We should also put the other side of this up, though, is many of the modules submitted likely are not compliant and nobody is checking them, so it doesn't matter to a lot of people. That's the problem here, right?
Well,
because like nobody's actually checking. You're filling out your means of compliance. You're submitting that. The FAA is accepting that as fact, and then you're done. And then that's the module that's out on the market.
So for people who don't know, the means of compliance is a set of steps that you assert that you followed that then means you have produced a remote ID module that will fit the standard. And you submit your module to the FAA and you say, oh yeah, I use this means of compliance. Here are the steps I followed. No one checks to see if you actually did it. And the FAA gives you a declaration of compliance, rubber stamps it, and now your module is approved. But the problem with that, correct me if I'm wrong, Blunty, is at some point in the future, the FAA could go, wait a minute, this module doesn't actually meet the standards. Hey! And could withdraw the declaration of compliance, right? Unless the manufacturer can like show that they're actually meeting the standards.
Sure. Yep. But what effect does that actually have for any user? Nothing really, right? That's the thing.
Well,
that's where a lot of people are coming from.
If they withdraw the declaration of compliance, does that mean that retroactively all the modules are no longer legal?
Right, but they were up to that point, and you didn't know better as a user, and you may not even get the memo about it. And like, I mean, I just understand the other side of the argument, where people are like, well, if a cheap module comes out, they can lie about the DLC all they want. They're a Chinese company. Who cares? I'm going to use it until it's not legal, and the FAA may never give a shit. You know, like I understand the other side of the argument.
They've covered their ass by buying a module, a cheap module that may not turn out to stand up to scrutiny. But since it's the manufacturer who's going to get hosed, they'll probably get a pass. If they have any remote ID module at all, the FAA probably won't be like, hey, you should have known. They'll probably be okay.
There's no way you could have known. Yeah, there's no way you could have known because you bought a licensed module that had a DOC at the time you purchased it, right?
Yeah. Isn't the manufacturer like responsible for telling you, hey, our DOC got pulled? Wouldn't the FAA expect that from them?
Yes, and they're supposed to keep contact information for you as well, like as a collection thing when you get a module. So they're supposed to be able to contact you for updates, changes, or pulls of the hardware. Yeah.
Yet another thing that costs money. So the question, Blunty, I think, and we're going to wrap this up because I know the chat hates it when we rant about remote ID for 40 minutes. We're not going to do that. But the question, I think, is whether you care about actually being compliant in a real sense, or whether you just want to sort of tick the box and like be like, okay, screw it. Now I probably won't get in trouble. And frankly, if you just don't want to get in trouble, just ignore remote ID entirely because the chances of you getting in trouble for it are extremely small, no matter what you do. However, unless you're very visible, unless you're a Part 107, or unless you have a YouTube channel, right? But if you want to buy some cheap module that maybe isn't compliant and be like, okay, I tick the box, I get that. The flight test module is attempting to actually be fully compliant in a real sense. They're trying to follow the rules. And if you want a module that actually is following the rules to the letter, that's what it costs. So that's what I would say about that. All right. Enough about that. Let's go back to the questions in the chat. Johnny Come Lately, thank you for getting the JB 2023 DIY kit. Is there any problem if we put ExpressLRS on UART 3 instead of UART 4 in order to use a remote ID on UART 4? No problem at all. UARTs 3 and 4 are open for whatever you want to do with them. You can use them however you like.
Hey, real quick, isn't there a thing though about he's talking about the remote ID module, so he's trying to use GPS, and isn't there SDA SCL on UART 3 or something? Like, I don't know, is there any weirdness there?
No, not on that flight controller. Okay. No, that flight controller is good to go. UARTs 3 and 4 are clear and good to go. The conflict that people get into is if you have a digital video transmitter, one of those UARTs is taken up by the digital VTX, at which point you only have one UART for your receiver, and then you're done. You can't have a GPS. But he's using an analog VTX, so he's good to go there.
Also, one other thing about that board I did notice, I've helped 3 people now with that board. If you're using digital but you're using another receiver, you can pull the RX1 out of the digital pin, get the TX1 from DSM, and then you have another UART.
Oh, that's clever. I didn't know that. Wait a second. No. That's interesting. You could get a GPS on then. So what you're saying is, let me look at the pinout diagram. You're saying the DSM connection, the DSM should be RX1, shouldn't it?
No, DSM is TX1. It's labeled as that in the flight controller manual too. Because DSM is it lets you do duplex, right?
No, that's SRXL. DSM is
Well, that's
RX.
how they have it labeled in the manual for the flight controller.
Have you actually done this and had it work? I see that. The manual is surely correct. No, the manual is surely correct. I was sure that DSM was RX, but okay. So you use DSM for TX1, and where do you get RX1 from?
On the bottom, there's a DJI plug, but you don't need the DJI plug if you're the RX1 on the DJI plug if you're using another
SBus
receiver. Yeah.
But doesn't that have an inverter on it for SBus?
Maybe it is labeled RX1, but you might be right.
No, that's an SBus input. That has to have an inverter.
Interesting.
I don't think that would work. I mean, we could test it, but
Yeah,
I would think that has an inverter for SBus.
That makes sense. I wonder why they labeled it as RX1, not SBus.
Yeah. I've struggled to get an extra UART out of this flight controller for people who want to do digital VTX, ExpressLRS or Crossfire, or any receiver that uses a full UART, and with GPS. And I haven't been able to make it work. Like, I can't find anything to remap that would actually, make it work. The smart audio is TX5, but there's no RX5 anywhere on the board. And I can't find two. Could you remap smart audio and you could remap smart audio and LED strip to soft serial and get GPS, I suppose. Yeah, I guess that's silly, but okay.
Do we know at this point, is it better to use soft serial for GPS or soft serial for OSD? I guess it doesn't matter because on this one you have the pin on the bottom, so you kind of got to use OSD with, unless you're doing a whole thing. Yeah.
I would use, I don't know, I would rather lose GPS than my OSD, personally. So I would use soft serial for the GPS. GPS isn't like just like 9,600 baud. It's not that big a deal. Yeah. All right. Good. I hope that was helpful. EMAFPV asks, have I had any issues with spots on the lens of the DJI goggles too? No, because I don't let the sun shine in the lens. Is that what you're talking about? No, I haven't had any problems with spots on the lens. My lenses are clean, and I'm very careful not to let the sun shine in and burn the screens. What's the estimated range of a remote ID module? Shady asks. Shady, the ASTM standard requires that it requires that you use off-the-shelf components, so it doesn't require proprietary components. It allows you to use off-the-shelf components, but requires that you essentially make a good faith effort to have the maximum possible range out of the off-the-shelf components. So what we're seeing is that remote ID modules are using Bluetooth 4 and Bluetooth 5, which gives better range than the Bluetooth. People are like, well, Bluetooth only has like 50-foot range. That's when you're using it to transmit audio data. This is different. This is very low bandwidth, and the range can be as much as I've heard 1,500 feet under ideal conditions. Under real-world conditions, it's significantly less. Athix has a really good question. Let me get this question from Athix. Athix asks, if you're making money with FPV, you need to have a remote ID unit and a 107. What about channels like infinity loops that fly whoops inside? What are the requirements there? If you're indoors, the FAA has no jurisdiction. You can juris my diction. What is that movie? What movie is that from? Yeah, if you're indoors, the FAA has no.
Google says The Matrix.
It's The Matrix. You give me that juris my diction crap, you can cram it up. No, Sergeant, your men are already dead. What a great line. What a great... That scene, I'm sorry. That first scene from The Matrix is so freaking iconic. Such great storytelling in that scene. Really, the Wachowskis set the bar so fucking high with The Matrix 1. And is that just like rose-colored glasses, Blunty? Like, have you watched The Matrix recently? When was the last time you watched The Matrix?
I don't think I've seen the entire Matrix.
Shut up. Do you not like The Matrix?
You don't want to go into this with me.
What?
90% of movies I have not seen.
Is it because you think The Matrix is a bad movie, or you just haven't seen it because, like, you're just not that into it?
I watched like a quarter of it on TV one time, and I wasn't super into it, and then I've never, like, I don't watch movies. I watch TV shows and play games.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
There's so many movies I haven't seen.
Such great storytelling. Okay. I thought we were going to get into an interesting conversation about why you have terrible taste in movies and hate The Matrix, which I would be interested to go into.
No, like, I haven't seen The Godfather. I haven't seen Rocky. I haven't seen, like, I don't know, all the big movies.
We're not talking about old movies. No, I'm not talking about, like, crappy old
Matrix
movies.
is 99. That's old now.
That's not that old. Oh. It's a good movie. No, Lieutenant. He says, Lieutenant, your men are already dead. Like, ooh. Who are these fucking guys? Okay. What about Studio Ghibli? Huh? Come on.
Yeah,
Totoro?
I was into anime as a kid, so I've seen a lot of all the time I spent watching anime. I've seen everything Studio Ghibli's ever made, I believe.
Fantastic. Okay, you're redeemed. You're redeemed. I can be friends with you again.
Like real people.
I was having some trouble.
Okay.
Favorite Studio Ghibli movie?
Howl's Moving Castle's pretty high on the list. Princess Mononoke is the classic that everybody goes like, "Oh, that's great."
Well, that's why I would. That's why I would stay away from it. Not that it's bad, but like,
yeah.
If everybody thinks it's great, then I'd be like, yeah, I'm not watching that one.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I think Howl's Moving Castle's like the automatic one. Spirited Away was good. That's Miyazaki. Was that Ghibli? That was Ghibli, right?
I love Spirited Away. Yeah, Spirited Away was Ghibli. I love it. It resonates with me in a way. I don't know if it's my favorite, because it might be my favorite. I've watched that. I regularly watch that. I think the central theme of Spirited Away is that people and things have a sort of a place where they thrive and are healthy and fit in. And when they are taken out of that place, they sort of lose their sense of self and sort of become unhealthy and maybe crazy. So like the most obvious example of that is No Face, who isn't allowed to come into the bathhouse. And then Sen lets him into the bathhouse thinking she's doing him a favor. And he kind of goes crazy and starts eating everything and preying on people's greed. And then when she takes him out of the bathhouse, he calms down again and becomes friendly, and he ends up going to Granny and, knitting and he's not an evil character or a bad character. He just was in a really, really unhealthy environment that didn't play well with his personality. It's so that really, I think that, I don't know, like I think that people go through that too, A lot of times people who are bad are actually just really in a place that doesn't really suit them. Yeah. Spirited Away. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I can't get deep into the thoughts about it because I haven't seen it in so long. I was like 13 the last time I saw it. So.
Yeah. I like, what's the Kiki's Delivery Service I like a lot too. Although that one slows down a little. That one, like the theme of sort of coming of age doesn't really like resonate with me as much as the theme of like finding a place where you fit in and are useful. The same thing happens with like they're the little soot spirits that work with the boiler man, and she like, I forget exactly what happens, but she like tries to help one of them, and the boiler man chides her and chastises her, and he's like, they have a job to do. Don't take their job. She thinks she's helping him, but they have a place to be and a job to do, and you're not helping them by taking that away from them. Anyway. Oh, all right. Yeah, the last Ghibli movie is coming out. I'm excited to see it. That's not Totoro. No, my neighbor Totoro. I don't remember what like a central theme of Totoro is. Everybody loves Totoro because they love the cat bus, but I'm not sure actually the Totoro has like, I can't think of what a deep theme of it is. We got a message here from Ghost Branch FPV. It's way too small to see, so we're going to go over here to the Discord server. Whether the GoPro 12 was recording real HDR footage, it's not. I looked into a raw HDR video sample file from the Hero 12, and the metadata shows it as Rec 709. Yeah, but that doesn't surprise me, Ghost Branch. So without reading the rest of your message, it wouldn't surprise me to learn that they're doing HDR video capture, like maybe they're doing 10 stops or something. I don't know what the official definition of HDR is. And then they're tone mapping it down to a Rec 709 color space. It will not be recognized as HDR by HDR. No, of course. It'll have a wider dynamic range, but it'll be Rec 709 and won't have any HDR-specific display features like, ultra bright areas or local dimming zones. That doesn't surprise me. I didn't expect that when the GoPro 12 said it was recording HDR. A true HDR camera it's not going to be a GoPro. Right? Yeah, most people aren't set up with an editing workflow for HDR. But I'm just happy if it gives me more detail in the highlights. I think that, and here's what I'll say, Ghost Branch. So first of all, thank you for doing the research. Any GoPro customer who hears that the GoPro records HDR is going to be like, oh, that's nice, HDR. And then just look at the GoPro marketing to see what it is. And any professional who understands what an actual HDR video would be is going to look at that and do the research you did and be like, oh, this isn't real HDR, So I don't think anybody's being misled here. But I was wondering about this. Ghost Branch says, if you have GoPro Labs firmware, you can actually record in Rec 2020 and log profile and actually grade to HDR. So there you go. I was wondering about that. Will you revisit 3D mode? No, not really. I'm not that excited about it. It's nice that Zoe FPV is making content again. Good to see her out there. A little maybe back on her feet. I don't know. Hopefully. I'm not that interested in it. Carbon Glass Man wants to know, someone told me the FPV pilot that chases sprint cars at the local track is getting $2,000 a night. Sounds like BS to me, but maybe I'm wrong. Does that sound right? So I would guess, I shouldn't say guess. I would say, based on people I know that work in the industry, and no, I'm not going to tell you anybody's day rate by name, but I would say I know a lot of people who work in the industry, both sort of YouTube personalities and just sort of like people you've probably never heard of who are professional 107 pilots. And I would say that a typical day rate for an FPV pilot is between $600 and $1,200, maybe a little more, depending on what they're doing. If you're flying a cinewhoop through a bar, you're going to be at the lower end of that spectrum. And basically, you're going to show up, you're going to charge the guy $600 or $800 for the whole video, maybe even including the editing, depending on how complicated the edit is. You're going to do a half day at the bar. You're going to get your footage. You're going to go edit it, and you're going to make $1,000 or something. I don't know. If you're bringing a free fly Alta, you know, a great big, if you're flying like a red $40,000 red camera, you're going to be at the higher end, maybe even off the top of that scale. But I think a round number for what like typical middle of the road FPV pilots are getting is in the $600 to $1,200-ish, maybe a little more range per day. There are pilots out there making $2,000 a day. They are they're at the level of somebody like a Mr. Steele. I'm not saying, I don't know what Steele's day rate would be, and obviously it would depend on the job. But like, if I found out Steele was taking $1,000 or $1,200 a day to go work on a set, I'd be like, that seems a little low for him. I would guess he's in the sort of the $2,000 to $2,500 a day range, just because he is extremely prominent. And I also have the feeling he doesn't actually want that kind of work very much. I think it seems to me like he probably finds it a little bit annoying to like show up on set and like be told what to do. Just, that's my read on his personality. I would guess he charges extra for that. But at a sprint track, is the guy flying drones at a sprint track making $2,000? I would be surprised to hear that, because I would be surprised to learn that like just a sprint track on a Friday night is pulling in enough in ticket revenue that by the time you trickle down all the employees, you trickle down to the FPV pilot, that they've got $2,000 to pay him. So I would guess that but it depends. It really depends. If there's somebody who is flying like if there's somebody who's flying a drone at a NASCAR race and he was making $2,000, then I wouldn't be that surprised. There's just more money in NASCAR. So.
Can we go back to the GoPro thing?
Yeah, go ahead. What's up?
Ghost Branch mentioned that you can actually do the same thing on Hero 11 HDR by doing labs, and you get the same output.
The Hero 11 can do HDR with you have labs?
Yeah. So they're advertising it as a feature, but he's saying it's weird that you could just unlock it on the 11, pretending like it's a new thing on the 12.
That's interesting. I have an 11. I would love to do HDR on the 11. Wow, GoPro. So then what's good about the 12? I mean, I guess it makes sense that you'd have a feature in labs on the 11 and make it a standard feature on the 12. That's kind of what labs is about.
He says it's actual HDR, not the fake HDR they did on the 12.
You're actually outputting Rec 2020, is what you're saying. I actually would rather have tone mapped Rec 709, because I'm not interested in, I don't have an HDR monitor. I'm not interested in actually doing an HDR workflow. That sounds like a pain in the ass. I just would like a little more highlight detail, please. Interesting. Well, Ghost Branch, thank you for doing the research. People are surprised. People are surprised at what FPV pilots charge. People are always surprised. I'm gonna tell. Here's a little story. Once upon a time, I had a little tractor, just a little mini tractor, nothing big. Had a little front end loader on it. I bought it. It was a little. You know, some people turn 40 and they buy a sports car. I turned 40 and bought a tractor. Is the joke I like to tell. I had it for a few years. We had sheep. I used it to move hay bales. Sometimes I would use it to smooth the gravel on my driveway, you know, and just little things. It was completely unnecessary, but I had fun with it. And at one point I thought maybe I'll try and make a little bit of money by bush hogging. So I had a bush hog. I bought a bush hog, just used off of Craigslist. And I put up an ad on Craigslist and said, hey, you know, I'll bush hog your property. You know what? Go make a couple $100. Go spend the afternoon bush hogging somebody's property. I did 1 or 2 jobs, and very quickly realized that the going rate for bush hogging was basically, like, if you just looked at the going rate for bush hogging, it was like $20 an hour or something, $25 an hour. It was more than reasonable. But if you actually added up all your costs, like the gas that went into the tractor, the gas to drive the truck and the trailer, you have to have a trailer to transport the tractor. If you add up all the costs, and especially if you consider that one of these days you're going to be bush hogging a field and bong, you're going to hit something that was in the brush that you didn't see, and you're going to F up your bush hog, you're going to get a flat tire, you're going to have to maintain your tractor. Suddenly that $25 or whatever an hour, suddenly coming home from bush hogging a field for a few hours with $300 in your pocket doesn't seem like such a great deal. And I stopped doing it because I was like, I'm losing money here. And you see that a lot in the FPV space. You see that a lot in all kinds of spaces where somebody is like, I can do this. I'll just charge, beer money. And because they're not treating it like a business, they're not accounting for all of the expenses that go into running a business. And when you meet someone who's an actual professional and they say, it's going to cost me minimum $600 to come out and fly a cinewhoop at your site for 3 hours, you're like, well, that's ridiculous. I'll do it for $200. And those people, and I'm not going to take a moral stance. Some people would take a moral stance and go, you're undercutting the professionals and you're a race to the bottom and you're ruining it for everybody. And it's like, well, sure. But everybody's going to, do what they can to get what they can get. The thing that really happens is the people who are undercutting and not charging enough, eventually they can't afford to do it anymore because they wreck their quad and they don't have enough money to buy a new quad. So when you hear about professionals charging what seems like a preposterous amount, know that there is also a lot of expenses going into what they're doing. And it's not just like the guy who's charging $1,200 a day is walking home with $1,200 in profit. It's 1,000% not true. Anyway. Let's see. Let's check. We're at 9:45. We just got one more super chat here from Zippy. Shout out to Rotor Riot for offering bulk priced props. Thank you, Zippy, for a $2 super chat. Let's see here. Let's get a couple more questions from the chat. Blackadder says, I updated my Walksnail VTX to 344015. Now my OSD only displays properly in HD. Any ideas why? I don't know, but do you not want HD OSD? Upgrade your quads to 4.4 and get HD. No, I don't know the answer. How is the HappyModel Crux 3.5 so much cheaper than other 3.5-inch drones? I don't know. HappyModel's good at making cheap quads. A lot of times it has to do with volume. They're just moving a lot of product so they can get volume discounts. They're not getting a discount on the air unit, that's for damn sure. I don't know. I can't tell you the answer as to specifically how HappyModel gets the price down. It's a good quad, though. So, buy it. What's an average flight time for one of your go-to quads, asks Harry Cash. My 5 inches, a typical flight time is 2.5 to 4 minutes, depending on how hard I'm ripping. Kilo Zebra says, I'm building my first analog quad after a few DJI builds. I can't seem to get camera control working from Betaflight. Am I out of luck and stuck using the joysticks? The camera control pad on a flight controller doesn't necessarily work reliably on all cameras. The Xylo Stax flight controller does have a camera control pad. That's a good start. But it's a bit of a crapshoot whether it's actually going to work on the cameras. There are CLI options you can use to tune the camera control parameters. And I can't even remember if there's a tutorial for how to do it because so few people use that feature. Like here in the Betaflight website, like we can change the camera control reference voltage, the key delay. You could try extending the key delay, and you can try changing the internal resistance. If you have a working joystick, you can get the button resistances and see if those button resistances are different. These are some camera control settings you could try to change. I'll put that in the chat. But a lot of times it just doesn't work. Jared Gaimanhart says, I bought your QAV kit and got to the point where we're setting up the motors and the motor direction won't change. The motor stops, but it just spins the same direction again. If that happens, I'm going to suggest that you just swap 2 of the 3 motor wires and it'll reverse the direction. I don't know why that's happening. It worked for me. That's pretty weird. I bought a used BQE Bandolero 6-inch with Luminaire 2407 1750 kV motors. Are those appropriate on a 6S 6-inch for freestyle? Fog Doctor, I would say yes. The 2407 is a little bit of a bigger motor. So although 1750 kV, I don't know if it's high kV for 6-inch props. It's on like a 2207 or a 2306 motor, I might say 1750 kV. I might be happier with like a little lower kV, but on a 2407 motor, you're going to be fine. Yeah, I would say you're fine. Tap Drown Drone Solutions asks, did I miss you soldering a capacitor for the QAV2 build? I don't know. Did you finish the build, or are you just like on video number 3? I put the capacitor in at the end of the video, not when I solder up the ESC. I definitely do it, though. Let's find it. Let's make sure that we have no confusion here. Where did I put the capacitor in? Final assembly? Is it in final assembly? Yes. Install the capacitor. It's in final assembly, part 12. That's where the capacitor goes in. I'm going to guess you didn't finish the series yet. What's your go-to 3D printer? Oh, we got this question from Alan already. We won't go back into that. I have a HappyModel EP2. How do I make it output SBus? If Flash ExpressLRS 3.3. So if we flash ExpressLRS 3.3.0, HappyModel, what do we want? EP, HappyModel EP. Where is the option to output SBus?
In the web UI now.
Oh, damn it. It's in the web UI. All right. So what you have to do is you have to flash 3.3, and then in the web UI, there's an option to enable SBus output. I knew it was somewhere. Photonies asks, can you use ExpressLRS 2.4 over a crowd like a festival? A commercial pilot said it's a bad idea and 900 megahertz is the only way to go, as 2.4 gigahertz is overloaded with all the phones. You would lose control. I can't speak to that since I've never personally done it. So I am familiar with that argument. The counter argument is that ExpressLRS uses LoRa, which is a sophisticated modulation method that is very good at avoiding interference, specifically Wi-Fi interference. So he's not crazy, but also there may be people out there who disagree. I couldn't say, though. Thank you, Token, for a $2 super chat. Walksnail VRX, that bad on Skyzone Cobra X? Pretty sure, in my experience, the latency was horrible. So I would say yes. Someone else out there will be like, it's not that bad. I do it. It's fine. But that's my opinion. Is it normal to have drops in bitrate when making sharp turns with the O3 air unit? No, that is not normal. I can't say why it's happening to you, but I can tell you it's not normal. Mogul Lord asks, I've been flying in the sim, watching your videos, and doing my own research. I have my eyes set on HD0. Should I get the Fat Shark goggles or the HD0 goggles? And do you recommend an HD0 bind and fly or build? If you have the money for the HD0 goggles, they're 1,000% the way to go if you fly HD0. They're just so much better than any other way of experiencing the HD0 system. If you're serious about investing in HD0, you should try to get the HD0 goggles. The HD0 standalone receiver is okay and can be used with a lot of different goggles. The Fat Shark HD0 goggles are really like, well, I don't have the money, but I want to get into it. And they're okay at the price, but they have a lot of compromises in terms of fit and finish and image quality. So definitely get the HD0 goggles if you can. As far as bind and fly or build, there are relatively few options in HD0 bind and flies, and most of them are micros. If you want one of them, definitely get it. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're looking to get something like a 5-inch, you're going to be building your own. See? I knew it. FL Engineer says, Walksnail on Cobra X is not that bad. I do it all the time. I knew it. I knew someone would say that. All right. That's cool. Alrighty. Oh, we got some confusion about SBus versus inverted. He was asking about SBus, not invert. Yeah, QuadMod says LoRa works in the new noise floor quite amazingly. LoRa is extremely good at getting data through even when there's interference. That being said, just being in 900 megahertz may be the smarter choice. If you were to fail safe in above a crowd of people, that would be real bad. All right. Sulfur FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat, $5 Australian. My quad just started getting an RPM filter flag when I go to swap the pack after flying. Power cycle and it's okay again until the next pack swap. RPM filter means that the flight controller is not talking to the ESC. If it's happening when you swap the pack, but then you power cycle again, it just sounds like the ESC is intermittently not talking to the flight controller. Like, it's easy for me to say, well, you might have a bad ESC. That's not that great of a guess. But we could guess that it's not wiring because you're simply plugging and unplugging. We know that the flight controller is getting power, so that also suggests it's not wiring. So it feels like this might be a bad ESC issue or maybe a bad flight controller. It's hard to track that down, though. Jason Black wants to know, can LoRa work with video transmitter data? LoRa is extremely low bandwidth, so it could not carry enough data to carry a video feed. Terminal Insanity says, I had intermittent RPM filters. It was a semi-loose cable connector. Yeah, so check your cables. Like, I wouldn't think that just unplugging and replugging would reset that, but you never know. Riet9, I appreciate this joke. Someone posted on Reddit a quad that they got used, and it was a Walkera runner. And it gave me an opportunity to share that old Walkera runner commercial, which I will now do in the last 5 minutes of the stream for people who have not seen it. This is the best FPV drone commercial ever made.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. What? Okay, what has she got in her hand?
Yes.
Is it an exercise device? Why does she have it? What does she have? What did she just say? Did she say Rasta? Rasta? Faster. What word was that? That was not faster.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
What? Who are we shooting? Who are we shooting? Now she steals his wallet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So my favorite part about that one is that quad definitely just crashed.
Yes.
Watch. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it went under. Okay, I take it back.
Yes.
Okay, that's not safe.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes! Yes!
Your brother, your lover.
Somebody stole your wallet.
Don't bother me. Now come on.
Now come on! Oh. Oh.
Yes.
Yes! So I don't know what I'm supposed to take from this. Is the girl the drone?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh, they're right about one thing, though. FPV does steal your wallet. FPV does steal your wallet. What are my lines for this commercial? Yes! Do I have any other lines? Yeah, don't bother me! I'm so happy to see people in the chat who haven't already seen that. I will continue to show that commercial on my live stream every 6 months or so to really make people appreciate how good we have it. By the way, is the Walkera runner any good? Well, let's see what RC Model Reviews had to say about it in 2015.
G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Today I'm going to talk about
good times.
this. This is the Walkera 250 Runner, or Runner 250. It is a racing quad in a box. That's what they tell us. I'm not so sure it's a racing quad, but it certainly is a mini quadcopter 250 size in a box, and there's everything you could want in this box. According to the list of instructions or list of materials, it's adequate for this application. It's got a video system on board, it's got the camera, it's got the video transmitter, and this one comes with the goggle
Bruce.
to the video glasses that will...
Did you fly it? Come on, Bruce, you got to fly it. No, he didn't fly it. I want to see it fly.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So today we're going to be...
Did you fly it? Yes, you did. Okay, here we go. The Walkera runner.
When it's a nice calm day, and I'll get some more video of this thing performing how it's kind of intended. All right, let's try some line of sight flips.
Oh yeah. That's how you review a quadcopter. We got any FPV footage? No.
The lights blink.
It doesn't look that steady.
Okay, so I'm gonna try one more battery.
Oh my god. We're just flying at line of sight.
Flips again. Shit.
Oh my god.
This one
It's an FPV drone.
Camera and the
But how are you reviewing an FPV
cable.
drone without flying FPV?
jack seems okay. It's just the cable ends.
So you saw some footage of the part because separately.
So are you gonna? No. No.
Good morning.
Good morning. Are you going to do FPV footage? No, you're just gonna fly at line of sight. Oh wait! Oh! FPV footage! Oh my god!
Copter. Hope you enjoy this flight.
Oh, I won't. Come on.
Now with this Devo transmitter.
Show me.
Devo F7 transmitter.
Oh my god.
I supposedly got a range.
Look at the jello!
To 1,000 meters with this.
1,000 meters? Ooh. Oh my god, it flies so bad.
I'm not going to fly very long today. This is the first flight of this thing, but I'm going to stay low and fast.
Are you? When? When are you going to?
Very nicely.
No, it doesn't.
Very smooth.
Oh, no, it isn't smooth. It's not smooth at all. At what time are you going to begin flying low and
I'm like a tenth of a pitch. Let's see how bank turns turn out with this thing. I'm going to move back a bit.
Okay.
It is very zippy.
It isn't. Quads flew so bad back then. Oh my god,
man.
it flies so
Smooth
bad.
Flyer.
It is not smooth.
But again, I would not recommend this for beginners.
I would not recommend it. Okay, we have to. That was smooth back in the day. You kids don't know how good you have it. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's gonna do it for the stream today. Thank you guys for coming out. Siati, sorry I ran a little bit long. And I will see you guys in the next one. Blunty, thank you so much for being here.
You got that one super chat that we did on cue?
Oh, thank you. Yes, this one from CBFPV. No, I think we're good, Blunty. Yep, we're good. Cool. Okay, that's it, guys. I will see you in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.